Center camera, wide angle. Do you think we could? Oh, okay. Okay. Really? I was for YouTube though, long form. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Awesome. Two.
You got all my shit though, by the way, right? You have all my stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. All right, guys.
For a sec.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ryan Hamden, and today I have a guest with me. His name is Zane Jan. Welcome to the show, brother.
Awesome, brother. Good seeing you, man.
How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
Good to see you, man. So we kind of connected really randomly. I just saw your assistant's Instagram post and DM'd him right away and locked you in. But what really intrigued me was the fact that you partnered up with Mr. Beast with your company, Better Earth. Can you talk to me about that and how you were able to get into that partnership with him?
Yeah, so I got reached out by Jimmy, who's Mr. Beast's team, and they wanted to be a part of some of the philanthropy projects that we were doing. So we were doing philanthropy projects all over. We've done stuff in Nepal, we've done stuff in Colombia, we're doing stuff in the Congo and Zimbabwe in the future. So we're doing a lot of different projects overseas. And Beast Philanthropy, which is his philanthropy company, does a shit ton of philanthropy all over the world. And they wanted to be a part of our next project, which was in Colombia. So they asked us, hey, could we come and join your project? And we said yes. Now that's turned into a partnership where we're probably going to do 2 more projects this year with them. That video just came out last week. It's almost 5 million views in like 72 hours. So it was top 10 trending on YouTube for the first 48 hours. So absolutely blown up. But what we did was we did a documentary, basically taking what I do, which is solar and batteries, going to a third world country where they don't have consistent access to electricity. The place we went to is in Colombia, and they sometimes lose power for 3 months. So they don't have access to electricity consistently at all. They don't have access to clean water. They shower out there in the lake. They go, shit and piss out there in the woods. So like they have a really rough lifestyle. So what we did was we went there, we built them a microgrid solar system. We built them a bakery where essentially they're able to now cook their own food. Before they couldn't do that. They're able to refrigerate it. So now they can store old food, which is very important for them. And then on top of refrigerating, storing, and cooking, now they actually have commerce. So they're able to take that food and they're able to sell it on the mainland to other people and build economy for their place, which was one of the reasons that we wanted to do that. On top of that, we brought them Wi-Fi. One of the things that they're always trying to do is watch TikTok. So what these kids have to do is they have to grab their phone, they have to go out there on the water, then they have to walk 8 miles to a place with 1 bar of signal, wait hours to download videos, come back and show it to everyone in the community. So we wanted to bring them Wi-Fi, so we did that. So we pretty much powered an entire island with Mr. Beast and his team, and now we're going to be doing more of that in the future.
That's incredible. And you're only 27 years old, right?
Correct.
That's incredible. Why did you even do it in the first place? Like, is there, what's the reason why you're doing these things?
Yeah, so impact is so important to me.
Yeah.
I was raised to an immigrant family.
Okay.
I was first generation immigrant American here in the United States, and I witnessed my family struggle ever since I was born. We struggled with money. We struggled with, everything. If I ever needed food, if I ever needed good health care, if I ever wanted something nice, it was always a struggle, and money was always attached to it. And I did not want to ever live a life where I had to focus on money as a problem. I wanted money to be a solution. So as I grew up, that was a thing. Now, I was blessed because I was able to visit other third world countries and see what was going on in other places. And I was very shocked at how people lived. If you go today to a third world country like communist Venezuela or communist Cuba, you will see that government will control power. That's the first thing that they get. So if they want to manipulate society, the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to shut off your power so that you can't get access to internet, you can't utilize your stuff, and then if they want you to listen to you, then they'll turn on your power. And they'll say, okay, you listen to us, you don't post on Facebook talking shit about our country and what's going on, you don't go out and go against our government, well, you can now have power. And if you don't, we're going to take away your electricity. So to me, I was always fascinated by that. I happened to stumble upon the solar industry through my life and became one of the largest residential solar installers. So when we wanted to work with a foundation, we work with a foundation called Give Power that we're partnered in. We wanted to find a foundation that connected what we do every day, which is solar and batteries. And that's how that started. So now we've done that. This Colombia trip was a great example of just one of the projects that we do. And Mr. Beast and his team just wanted to be a part of that. So they came along.
That's incredible. I want to go back a little bit into like your past, right? You mentioned in a previous podcast, your dad came up with $100.
Yeah.
Right. From which country?
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Oh, are you Jordanian?
Yeah. I have a mix of different stuff, but yeah, my dad came from Jordan. He lived there his whole life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you came when you were 6 months old, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so, what's your ethnicity like? If you could break that down for me.
It's weird. I have a little bit of Jordanian blood in me. I have a little bit of Pakistani blood in me, and I have a little bit of American blood in me.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
what do you resonate with the most, like as far as
I mean, dude, I was raised here, right?
Oh, okay.
I grew up here my entire life, but I look back at the old principles and cultures. I grew up in a Islamic household, so being Muslim was all the principles. We prayed 5 times a day. We fasted every Ramadan. We celebrated every Eid. So just doing all of those things, I still had those traditional principles of maybe what exists more in a Muslim country, but I also had the modern society and then also the opportunity of what exists in the United States. So when you put those two things together, it's a really interesting parallel because it is opposite sides, right? You have a very strict conservative Islamic household versus, America, which is the land of the free, where people do whatever they want. And you take those two things and you come in the middle. And I think it's beautiful because I have the opportunity, I have the freedom, and I have the big thinking that comes with being from America, but I also have the principles and the discipline that comes from being, from a Muslim country. So you put those two things together. To me, it's the perfect world, and it's a big part of why I am who I am today.
Makes sense. Wow, that's awesome. And so, were you always religious, or did you?
No, I actually wasn't. So I grew up religious, meaning my parents were religious. I just prayed because they were watching me. A lot of times I was just praying and not even saying anything, pretending like I was, and I was just praying because they were watching me, and it's just a part of society. Or during Ramadan, there's a lot of times where I would cheat. I'd go to school, I'd drink water, I'd do this, I'd come back, and I'd act like I'm fasting because I did not see the value of the discipline and the principles, and I didn't understand why they existed. So as I got older, I still had a lot of bad habits. I broke a lot of, a lot of rules. I was constantly a rebel. But as I got older, I appreciated religion a lot more. It really isn't for the last 3 or 4 years that religion has played a bigger impact in my life. Growing up, again, it did, but it was more forced upon me. It wasn't sought after. But today, I believe it's all about principles. And I think no matter what you are, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jew, whether you're a Buddhist, I think it is important for every single person to have a book of beliefs and principles, and they don't discriminate. And when you look at Christianity and Islam, they're actually very similar in a lot of ways.
They are,
A lot of times people look at these religions and think that they're very different. But when you look at them, again, whether you're looking at Judaism, you're looking at Islam, or you're looking at Christianity, you put all three together, they have very similar teachings. There's very small and slight variations. So to me, I never discriminate against these other religions. I personally love Islam because I think it is the most conservative. And I think today in a world that we live in, that's the Wild West and is absolutely crazy. It is a great thing that will center the balance. We've gone very, very, very left meaning not just political, but to a direction where anyone can be anything. Anyone can come to this country and be whoever you want. I could say, hey, tomorrow I want to label myself a Honda Civic, and that's my identity, and I could get that, and I could be a Honda Civic.
It's crazy the world we live in, right? Yeah. Especially when we talk about the West, even like I'm talking about like Los Angeles and like Vegas. I think this is where like it's
extreme.
They call it the fitna in Islam, right? Which is like the bigger test. And that's I talk about that with other Muslim brothers. They're like, there's the test here is way bigger than say in Virginia or other Muslim countries.
It's a temptation.
Yeah, it is.
And you see all of this going on. It's a huge temptation. Yeah. I know so many people that I'm friends with that are rappers, athletes, etc. And all these guys do for fun on the weekends is they hit a strip club and they blow $20,000 just throwing ones out. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, I don't understand why that's fun. I don't understand what you like about that. Right. It's not like you're, even getting anything out of that, in my opinion, at least. So to me, a lot of people, it's not that they're bad people. It's just that that's what they view as fun because of the society that they grew up in. Yeah. And I do believe we are going through a transition and a revolution where I do think it's going to get more centered. Now, I'm not someone that thinks it needs to be extremely, extremely conservative. We don't have to be, far right conservative, but I do think we need to have a center balance. And I think Islam's, again, a very conservative religion. So I think the more people that are Muslim, it will bring more people kind of into the center. Yeah. When you take this mix of literally how I was born, you know, in a Islamic household, but with American tradition and culture growing up and going to an American public school, you put those two things together. And I think there's no combination that is more powerful than that, because one of the sad parts of a lot of these Islamic countries where people are very conservative is people are so scared to even speak out their mind. They're scared to go out there and chase opportunity because they don't even think it's possible, because their entire life they've been in a shell, almost like a turtle, just kind of caged into something because they were forced to do something. But for me, being a rebel growing up in America, I saw all the other stuff. I've done tons of drugs. I've been out there. I've partied. I've been to every club.
Talk about that, because when you were 15, you said you were hanging out with the wrong crowd,
14,
right?
15 years old. Yeah.
So, you know, I think we all kind of went through that phase where in high school we meet this crowd and they kind of get us into the wrong things. But it's funny because a lot of us don't break those habits.
Correct.
Like some people are going into college with those same
all
habits.
my friends I grew up with.
Yeah. So can you talk to me about how do you break those habits, right? Do you have to incorporate a religion into your life? Are you telling people to meditate? Are you telling people to what are you telling people to do kind of break those habits? Because it involves things like smoking weed, drinking a lot of alcohol.
It's a personal decision.
Right.
It's a personal decision at the end of the day.
Okay.
I remember I'd wake up every single day. And the first thing that I would do when I would wake up is I'd put on a pot of coffee, I'd drink a coffee, then I would smoke weed, and then on top of that I would take an Adderall.
Right.
So you have weed, which mellows you out.
Right.
You have coffee, which brings you up, and you have Adderall, which keeps you focused. You put those three together. It was a miracle drug for me. That's what I thought, at least at the time. I would do that throughout the day. Then noon would hit. I usually start at 8 a.m. Then noon would hit, and I would take another extended release Adderall just to kind of keep me going throughout the day. I'd be drinking coffee throughout the day, and then I used to have a PAX vape, which is a way to smoke weed inside. Just, you know, you didn't have to light up anything, so I would smoke that too midday. Then I would get home at night, and then I would go out to party. So I would do coke to wake back up, get myself going all night, and then I would start drinking alcohol, and then I would come back home and I knew that I needed to sleep, so I would take Xanax to go to sleep. So I would do every single type of drug, which just put me in the wrong direction.
In high school?
And made me a bad human. This was actually when I was 18 years old.
18
my
years
first year
old,
of college.
Yeah.
I got that extreme. In high school I did stuff, but I never got that extreme.
Yeah.
But this was really just 1 year of my life. I was very lucky that I got out after 1 year, but I was going down the wrong path, and then I dropped out of school. I looked myself in the mirror one day and I said, this is not who Zane is. This is not the legacy that I want to leave. I'm going to go cold turkey and quit everything completely. And I stopped. There was no 12-step program. There was no rehab. There was no mentor. There was no even guiding light or waking sign. I just looked at myself one day and I made a decision. And I believe it is as easy as making a decision. I think a lot of people just don't want to make that decision for themselves. That's why I always tell people, you can't change anyone yourself. You can influence them, but they have to make that personal decision.
Makes sense. But when you take all those things, you're kind of filling up a lot of time, right? So
yeah. I was bored.
You had a lot of time free now, right?
I was bored. Well, I wouldn't say it was free because I was hustling. I was selling drugs too. I was selling real estate and I was promoting bars and clubs. So I was doing stuff, but all of that stuff was just hustles, a deal here, a deal there. It was quick and easy money. But now I knew I wanted to go and do something far greater and bigger than that. So that's when the focus became, okay, now I need to actually lock in. And if I want to be successful, no one will ever want to work with me if I have all of these bad habits that go with me. So success was the decision that I made. I didn't go sober because I thought it would kill me. I didn't go sober because I thought it was even bad for me. I went sober because I knew that it would impair my success, and I knew that people wouldn't want to work with me based on my habits, and I no longer wanted to be that person. That was number one. Number two, I wanted to wake up every day great, and when I woke up sober every single day, I woke up great. But when I would go into all the shit I was doing, I wouldn't wake up great, especially when I was drinking the night before, taking Xanax to and blow. You wake up, you know, it's all, you know, daisy for you, and you don't know what's going on. Your mind's slow. You're reading text, and it's just like, dude, you're not 100% there. But when I was sober, thanks to, you know, God's goodwill and having this great mind, I was extremely optimized, and I was able to get whatever I put my mind to done. And when I realized the value of that, I realized that all I was doing was putting God in a really bad position, because what I was doing was I was saying, you know, Almighty Creator, Allah, what you did to me was you gave me everything that I ever needed to be successful all up in here. And all I'm doing now is just saying, fuck you, by impairing all this with stupid substances. And that was the mentality.
Wow.
So that's what got me to quit.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. By the way, one thing that I noticed about you, bro, you're very sharp.
Thank you.
You're a very sharp dude. I'm 23 years old, bro. I feel like you're somebody that I embody and that I want to be like, because we're 4 years apart, right?
Yeah.
Very sharp dude, Muslim, successful, right? How do you kind of build, because obviously you have to break those habits, but now, like, what was like the habits that you had to like focus on it and start like, building? Because obviously you knew that the real Zane is like, I'm not this guy that's smoking weed, taking, Adderall and doing all these things. I'm the guy that gets stuff done, right?
Yeah.
What habits did you incorporate that kind of got you to that sharpness and that kind of momentum to building your business?
Yeah, so I would wake up every single day, and the number one thing that I always had to do was fill up my calendar. That has been something that I follow until this day. Okay. When I have free time, I'm bored, and that's when I will do bad things. Yeah. When I have time that is extremely busy, I have no time in my day, I'm literally running meeting to meeting, I'm not free at that point. So what does that do for me? I now have to fill up that space, and I'm filling it up with just busy stuff and good work and productive things. But when if I had 6 hours open in my day, who knows what I could go and do? Who knows what bad things I could get into? So I just knew that about myself, and I knew that I needed to stay busy. And when I stay busy, I get more successful. If you want to look at skill sets, you asked a question. You said, hey, I'm X age. You're what, 23?
23, turning 24 September.
Okay, so you're 23, you're turning 24. I'm 27 in November. I turned 28. So I have a little bit more life and experience on you, but not tremendously great. And how I was able to become Zane Jan and who I am today was when I was 23 years old, I was studying, but I wasn't studying economics. I wasn't studying mathematics. I wasn't studying chemistry or biology. I was studying communication. That was the number one thing I was looking at. Now, this was not taught in a book. It wasn't done through a course. It wasn't even done through a video. This was done through studying and observing those around me that had great influence. So what I would do is I would always study movies, videos, different things. And I wasn't necessarily just listening to what they were saying. Yeah. I was studying how did they say it? How do they articulate their thoughts? What do they use to influence people? What was so captivating about those words? And when I studied communication, that has helped me at every layer of business. Why? Because when I want to go out there and sell someone something, you need great communication skills. When I want to go and motivate my entire staff, I have over 600 W-2 employees, over 3,000 salespeople, and 71 companies that work with me on a daily basis. What do I have to do every day? I have to inspire and motivate those people to have drive and to show up every single day. I need to have great communication skills to get into them what my vision is and what I'm going after. And a lot of people, they're missing that one fundamental layer. They don't know how to properly communicate. So if I were to look at someone today, I would say, learn how to communicate. People ask me, oh, Zane, I'm 18 years old. How do I learn how to communicate? Super simple. Go out there and do something that's going to enhance that. For me, I picked, I think, the best and the hardest industry that I possibly could, which was door to door. I went door to door and I would knock homes every single day from morning to night in hot summer weather and cold, snowy weather in Boston. And I would convince and persuade people to go solar. And that's how I learned how to communicate, because I got every type of rejection. I got every type of weird situational things that go on. I was put into very uncomfortable situations where, you have a husband and a wife fighting. I'm a third party. They just met me today and I have to make both of them happy, and then I have to sell them on this product. I've been in situations where I'm knocking a door and they think I'm about to rob them and the cops get called on me. I have to sell my way out of, the cops arresting me or looking into me or, putting a hit on me because I don't have a permit. So they're like, okay, can't knock this neighborhood anymore. I know I need to knock that neighborhood, so I can't let that cop ban me from that neighborhood. So I have to build that relationship. So you learn how to get very creative. When you sell solar or sell any product that is door to door, I know people that sell vacuums door to door. I know people that sell religion door to door. When you sell anything door to door, you are forced to be creative, because every door that you knock is a different human being. You have zero relationship with them, so you have no time to study them, and it's a different situation, and you have to be able to adapt to that situation.
Makes sense. For me, what I'm doing to improve my communication skills is having a podcast. What do you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, podcasts are a great way, right? Because you get to interview people. But again, going back to what I did, right? Door to door, that's the hardest form of communication because you're going into a situation where you don't know what to expect. It's like being put into a cage, right? Let's say you're a UFC fighter. At least you get to study the tape of that fighter before you get into the ring. But imagine you're a UFC fighter, you're preparing for a fight, then the day before the fight, the guy doesn't make weight, and then you get put in with some guy that you know nothing about.
Right.
Now you're going to a cage, and you naturally have to get creative, and you have to fight that person and figure out how to win.
Yeah.
And you have nothing on your side other than your pure instincts. And that's exactly what Door to Door does. When you're doing this podcast, at least you get to study me. At least you get to watch my YouTube videos. At least you get to go on, Google and search up who I am. So you have some understanding of what I'm going to be like and what questions to ask me. But imagine if you had to do this podcast, you didn't know who I was, you knew nothing about my story, and you sat down here and you just started interviewing me.
Yeah.
You would have to get very creative to be able to get the most out of me.
100%.
Well, that's exactly what I had to do at Door to Door every day. And it created that creativity in my communication that's allowed me to be who I am today.
Wow. Cool. So you started your podcast. Well, you had a podcast, right, 3 years ago?
It wasn't really a podcast, I would call it. Kind of a podcast, but I did a few episodes. I knew a bunch of celebrities. I know a lot of people in the entrepreneur space. I know people in the entertainment space, athletes. I know everything. So the idea was use my connections to be able to bring people on. I did it for a little bit, and then I just was very focused on business and I didn't put enough time there.
Yeah.
So now we're going to be relaunching at some point. I have 50 guests confirmed, all high caliber. Anyone that comes on that podcast, you probably know who they are. That's the level of people that I'm bringing on. But before I started that, I wanted to be the best, what's the word for someone that sits on a podcast? It's not a host, a guest.
Right.
I wanted to be the best guest on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we've made a pact that before we launch our own podcast, I want to go out there and I want to do 100 plus podcasts. So just over the last 4 weeks, we've probably done, 15 plus podcasts.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, because you only have like 4 or 5 videos out on that YouTube channel.
Yeah, and all of them perform pretty good for a channel that has just started. And
one of them
good.
has 75K views.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Mo was telling me right before I left the house because we were checking out your YouTube channel. He was like, "Yeah, I think he's running ads on this one."
No, but I have run $0 in ads.
Really?
If you look at the performance of that didn't even do good for the first few months.
Because Grant Cardone was your first video, right?
Yeah, and that one hasn't done as good as that one.
Exactly.
And that video is about solar. And what's so crazy is what would happen is, and now it's deranked after a year. That was done like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But when it first started, it didn't blow up. It maybe got 500 to 1,000 views.
Wow.
But slowly it started picking up. And then what would happen is you would type in solar business on YouTube, and that was always the first video that would pop up.
Wow.
And I imagine a lot of people just type that in, and that's how it would pop up. And my friend, who's a big YouTuber, he looked at that video. He dove deep in the analytics, and he was like, yeah, this is why this blew up. And this is ranked at the highest level. So for me, I never even put effort and tried there. So
what
now,
was that, by the way? Because like that's super. Like you said, your YouTube friend went into the analytics, and then he was like, "This is what got it big." What was that thing?
The keywords. So he was just looking at the keywords. I forget the exact title, but he was looking at the title. He was looking at what we said, and then he was looking at the market. He has this whole, I forget what it's called. See, I'm not huge at YouTube, but he has a tool that basically tells him keywords and what's going on and what to post and how it should be. And he was like, dude, somehow you picked the right words, you said the right things, and you're in an industry where there's not a lot of stuff that's high ranked, so it's not as competitive as some of these other things. So you rose right to the top.
So your SEO is on point. And
but again, that was no plan.
Not planned out.
Dude, that was literally like such a random thing we just shot from the hip and put out there.
Wow.
It wasn't even my podcast. It was someone else coming to interview me who literally, I think, just posted that podcast last week.
Wow. Dude, and your first video was Grant Cardone, right?
Yeah.
It's like somebody starts a YouTube channel, they're not going to get Grant Cardone starting out or Ed Milet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like how...
I just had those relationships, right?
How did you get those relationships?
Yeah, so with Grant Cardone, it was really funny because I was like a 16 or 17-year-old, and I became a big Grant Cardone fan because what really got me about Grant was he was very controversial. He said things in a different way, and a lot of people hated on him. Yeah. And I was like, dude, this is my entire life. My entire life I've been controversial, and people hate on me in school. I get kicked out of classes. And then he talked about his drug use. He talked about his issues and his problems. And I saw a figure, someone I could look up to that I actually related to. So that's what got me really into Grant. And then one day he was doing a podcast on his podcast called Hustlers University. It's a show with him and his president of sales. And they were talking, and someone called in, and he wanted to do a deal with someone. I think it was a real estate thing. So he wanted to give the guy his number. So he goes, I can't give it to you on air, but 1 second. And then he goes away from the mic. He grabs the phone like this, and he starts repeating the numbers. He goes, 310.
But you could hear it.
And he starts going, but no one could hear it.
Uh-huh.
So what I did was I put up the volume on all blast, and it took me like 2 hours to decode what that number was.
Way.
And when I put the number in, it turned blue on iMessage, and that's when I knew, dude, this has to be real. So I do nothing with the number at first. And I'm sitting with one of my friends. We're actually, now I'm 18 years old, I think. And I'm sitting with one of my friends, and he's like, dude, you should just try FaceTiming. I FaceTimed, and Grant picks up, and he's with his wife, Elena, and we have like a 20-minute conversation. And then that established into a little bit of a relationship where I would text him, call him, met up with him.
Did he ask you, yo, how'd you get my phone number? Who are you? Like,
yeah, I told him. He really liked it.
Oh, really?
And then one day I was just like, at that point I built a relationship. So it was like, hey, I'm doing a podcast. Cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Wow.
And then I did a second one with them after, and same thing. Where it's like, how'd you get it? So people were like, dude, how much did you pay for that? I was like, dude, look at the text. Like, literally like, hey, can we do a podcast? He's like, yeah, email this person and they'll set up the schedule.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
He didn't ask for like your analytics, like how many views you have or anything like that?
No, just because I think he knew who I was. Also, when I did my podcast, this wasn't when I was 18. This is when I got success. So he knew my numbers. So I think that was a part of it. Ed Milet was very different. Ed Milet was my friend was good friends with him, introduced us. We became friends. Found out that I grew up in like this bumfuck place outside of Boston that no one is from. And Ed Milet was actually raised there for like the first 7 or 8 years of his life. So we had this little quick connection, and that led to a friendship. And I just texted him one day, yo, want to hop on Zoom, do a quick podcast? He's like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Wow.
So now what's crazy is like, you think they're big. Wait till you see some, I'm not going to release the names here, but wait till you see some of the people on that list of 50 that I have confirmed for a podcast. They make those guys look small.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Can you share with us one of them, the guest?
One of them is super controversial, 6ix9ine.
Wow, you confirmed with him?
Yeah. I was with him in person, and I was like, yeah, we do this podcast. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about this and this.
Super controversial.
Yeah.
So when you started your solar business, you said you did 20 million in 7 months?
Correct.
20 million in 7 months. How old were you?
The first solar company, I was 21.
21?
Yeah, I just turned 21, actually. I remember because right as we started it, we were going into a club, and I needed to use a fake ID to get in. And then I remember I had just turned 21. So, yeah, it was
Bro, I'm about to walk out of this. 21 to 7 million?
Yeah.
So, obviously, you didn't do that by yourself, right?
Yeah, I had a team.
Okay. So, can you talk to me about that process? Because I'm actually building a team right now, and it is hard. Like, I don't have the right information, right?
Yeah, it's hard because you're just starting.
Yeah. So like,
I started building a team at 18 years old. That's the only difference. You're 23 and you're starting now. I started at 18. So I just had I leaped during that time.
Yeah.
Because I was 18, I knocked doors. I became the best at knocking doors. I learned how to sell solar, and then I built a team around that. I just started recruiting people, building a team, delegating what I did, learning, fucking up, doing good, fucking up, doing good.
Yeah.
Built that up. And then when I was 20, building up a company, that was our first company. I was the chief revenue officer of that company. So 2 other guys were the main owners, and I was the chief revenue officer who earned equity in that business.
Okay, so that's something I'm battling this right now, because I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I hate working for people, but then I'm like studying other people that were successful, and you just confirmed this too. Like, they all worked under somebody, and they all had some sort of quote unquote mentor, but that mentor it was more like they would bring a ton of value because they were working for that mentor. Yeah. Right. So do you suggest, for me as somebody that's starting a marketing agency, do you suggest I go out, work for another marketing agency for maybe 6 months, a year, just to kind of see like how they operate, what kind of team members they have, things like that, and then just
that's how you learn how to build a business. Okay. See, I worked at a multi-billion-dollar company. That was my first solar company that I worked at. So I saw how they built it on scale. I learned, and then I went and did my own thing. Wow. And actually, it was 3 phases. I started working for someone else completely, learning how someone built a billion-dollar company, got offered to go and start a startup, got equity in that startup, became an owner, and then left that startup to go start my thing fully on my own with my control. But I had repetitions of going from a massive corporation, seeing how it was done, then to a startup and seeing how it was built with other people's capital and experience, and then to my own with my own stuff and my own setup.
How did you get away from the startup? Because obviously they owned equity, right, of the company?
Yeah, so really it was just vision. I had surpassed the vision of the company. Okay. I had built it up to a massive company. At that point, doing a lot of money in revenue, just scaling. We had over 100 employees, so we were actually a decent sized business. And I had to walk away from something that was already built and established only because I believed in myself enough to know my value. So I was in that company, and I wanted to build it far bigger and greater than the owners of that company wanted to. And almost every single week we would argue about my vision and my ideas, and they just were not aligned and didn't agree with me.
Right.
In my opinion, they were trying to build a $50 to $100 million company while I was trying to build a multi-billion-dollar company. So after just years and years of going back and forth, I started to put attention and time onto, okay, I actually want to build something. I actually want to build something. I actually want to scale, but I don't want these restraints or these caps on me. So I had to make a super hard decision to leave that company to go start something from scratch that was uncertain. I walked away from a business that was probably at that time valued at somewhere between 80 and $100 million. All to just go and start something from scratch because I believed that I could build something a lot more valuable. And then within the first 90 days, I knew I had made the right decision because we were moving faster and farther than I could have ever imagined. And now we're almost 4 years in and we are, you know, trumping that company. We are at least 15 to 20x bigger than that company ever was at its peak. And then that company actually ended up going bankrupt after everything. And that just goes to show when you have the right people and the right leader, a lot of times that's a big enough thing to make a difference when you're starting a business. And when I had left that business, they lost me. Now, they didn't die right away. It took them 2 years to die, but after 2 years, they went bankrupt. But that was a process for them, but they lost who I was. They didn't see that talent. Now, there was a very good chance I just would have stayed at that company for the rest of my life and built it up to be a multi-billion-dollar company. The problem was they had a very big ego and opposing ideas with what I wanted to do. And I would try to fight that, but I wasn't able to get my way. So I ended up actually leaving to start something from scratch because I believed in myself.
Right.
I had a lot of conviction that I could actually be successful. And that conviction is what led me to actually build what I have today.
Where did that conviction come from of you believing you're going to be successful?
Action. Doing the same things over and over again every day. When you do them, you become confident in them. If I was a professional fighter and I fought every single day, I sparred 6 hours a day, I went and I trained 3 to 4 hours a day on top of that. And I did that for the last 10 years. I'm going to be extremely confident when I enter the ring and I won't be scared of anyone. But if I'm sparring for the first time ever, if I've only done it here and there and I slack off, I'm going to be very scared when I go in. So for me, I just had a lot of repetitions and I had done it over and over and over again. And I believed in my business and I had watched it grow and scale. I had achieved some success and now I knew I could really take that success to another level. So that's what got me to really believe in myself. But a lot of people out there, they just don't take action. They have big ideas, they have big dreams, they have big goals, but there's no execution. It's just ideation.
Right. And why do you think that is? Like, why don't people take action?
They don't think big enough. A lot of people set a goal that is super small and then they procrastinate about that goal. And instead of thinking big and executing, they just think about it all day long. And they're stuck with this small, tiny goal, number one, which is their first problem. And then number two, they're just not executing. They're not taking any action. All they're doing is thinking about something and overanalyzing and asking themselves, oh, what's the risk on this? Or what happens if this happens? Or what happens if that happens? And then on top of that, they're listening to other people that are third parties in their life that have no idea what they're fucking talking about. They're just telling them, oh, Jimmy, I don't think you should go out there and do this. Imagine if Mr. Beast listened to his mom. Right? Mr. Beast started creating YouTube content, I think it was at 11 years old. Imagine if he had listened to his mom who was pissed at him for creating YouTube content and wanted him to go to college.
Right.
We wouldn't know Mr. Beast today.
No, we would not. No, 100%. You talked about how being a leader is super important, right? And obviously you're a leader in your company with ton of employees, thousands of employees.
600 plus W-2 employees. 600? So again, a lot of people in solar might say they have employees. I'm very just HR and political about it. So yes, W-2 means like they're on salary or they're paid hourly and they show up and they work 40 hours a week, etc. And then salespeople, we have over 3,000.
What are things that you do as a leader every single day?
Wake up and like I just talked about before with my calendar, it's just going through my calendar. I have preset meetings scheduled. Today and yesterday and the day before was podcast days. So we're doing some podcasts in between there. There's some meetings, but I'm always on the move doing something. Like after this, we have another podcast and I go back and I have 2 other meetings we have to do. You know what I mean? So it's always just revolving around my life and my schedule. So I don't wake up any one day and be like, okay, well, what am I going to do today? My life moves so fast at 1,000,000 miles per hour that my life is legitimately just like a machine and I am in the machine driving it. But at the end of the day, the machine keeps going with or without me. So I have so many things that just come up naturally. I run such a big business. I have so many employees, so many leaders, so many executives that there's constantly projects being done and worked on that I don't even know about because the machine is so big.
Right. how do you set up that machine or that foundation, or how do you set up those meetings?
You need people.
Okay.
You need a big group of people. The goal is not to set up meetings. The goal is to have other people in your business operating your business so that you could focus on the next levels and the next layers and future of your business. A lot of people get stuck in their day-to-day. They need to be in every meeting. They need to interview every person. They need to hire every person. They need to make every decision. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to be the day-to-day person. I'm a big thinker and I'm a visionary. So I needed to surround myself with the right people. So a lot of my energy and my time just went into finding the right people. How do I find someone that's successful, capable, and smarter than me so that I can take my skill sets, give it to them, and have them duplicate far greater than I ever could? So I became a talent acquisition specialist, meaning I would go out there and I would just look for people like you that might be extremely hungry, might have a lot of motivation. And I'm like, okay, I see a little bit of myself in there. Let me give them all the tools that they would need to succeed, and then let me see what the end product is. And the best part about it is I find the end product. That person's extremely happy with where they're at, how much money they're making, and what their future looks like. And I'm extremely happy because now there's an area of my life that I don't have to put time and attention onto. Now I can go and I can take that same skill set of duplicating one person, and I can do it over and over and over again. And then once I do that enough times, now I teach my people how to do that, and now they go and duplicate themselves with other people. And eventually, again, you get to where I am today, where it's a machine. I don't know every person we hire. I don't say yes or no when we hire someone. I don't interview anyone when we hire someone. It's like all done through the machine and the system. And if you want to be a billionaire, if you want to build something that's of massive scale, you have to have that. There's no way any one person could ever do that.
Well, you talked earlier about the skill set. Number one skill set that you focused on was communication. If you had to name your top 3 skill sets, number one being communication, what are the other 2?
Yeah, so communication for sure, number one. Very tied and closely paired in with communication is sales.
Okay.
Sales is an elevated level of communication. There's a little bit of persuasion in there, but a big part of it is conviction, right? So you need to make sure that you can sell someone. But if you want to sell someone something, you have to believe in it. If I go and I sell you something and I'm just, I think this car could be good, or I think this one's the right one for you. You don't have conviction in your voice. But if you're sitting here and I'm selling you a car and I'm like, this is the car for you. Fuck all of those other cars. I see you in this car. I have so much conviction that naturally, just with my energy, you're going to want to go into that car. So that's really important. So I would say communication at a fundamental level. Number 2 is definitely that skill set of sales. Yeah. And then number 3 is you have to have a vision. You have to be able to create a vision. So many people, we call them NPCs, not non-player characters. They walk around there. I was just telling them, we're staying at the Wynn Hotel, and you see the casino, and I'm looking at all these fucking dumb motherfuckers that are in front of a slot machine, like a ding, a ding, drinking their fucking thing, and the lady comes over and she gives them another fucking
those
Diet
things are free,
Coke.
by the way.
Yeah, exactly. They give them the free drinks, the vodka and Diet Coke. This motherfucker keeps drinking. He keeps putting all of his fucking 50 grand salary back into this slot machine and going ding, a ding, a ding. And it's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
What? You ever see me doing that? Fucking stab me. I give you permission. Everyone here, you ever see me do that? Feel free to stab me. You will not get charged. I give you permission because I will never be one of those non-player characters, we call them, people that are just walking zombies like in GTA. You ever play GTA and you see the homeless guy that's just like limping around, dude? Well, that's how most people are in life.
Right.
But for me, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I have a big vision.
Yeah.
I study people like Elon. Right. I study people like Bezos. Bezos right now has a vision of building a clock that is going to outlast humanity. That's his goal. He's building a world clock right now. I don't know if you ever heard of this. He's building look it up, everyone, and we'll post it somewhere here. He's building a world clock, this archaic world clock. And the goal of this clock is to legitimately outlast humanity.
How does that even work? Like what?
I don't know, but it's fucking what he's doing, right? He has a vision. He has a dream.
Yeah. Wow.
Go to Elon. Elon's trying to build rockets. He's trying to go to Mars.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to do. And you're sitting here at a goddamn slot machine.
Yeah.
Fucking ding.
Yeah.
Drinking your little drink.
How does that happen, correct? Because I feel like a lot of people are a product of their environment, right? Correct. Do you feel like
99% of environments are the wrong environments.
Yeah, and the thing is, some people are in control of that, right? Some people are.
We'll just imagine this.
Right.
I don't know who you're around every day.
Right.
But imagine if those people you're around every day. Yeah. Now imagine if you go the other direction. Now imagine you're a bunch of people that drink all day, gamble all day, and do drugs all day. Most likely you're going to become like those people, right? But imagine if you had the opportunity to be able to sit next to me 24/7 and just be with me.
Yeah.
You're going to notice, number one, you're going to be annoyed as fuck because I'm not an easy person to deal with. Right. Why? Because I'm going to judge the fuck out of you and I'm going to bother you and I'm going to make you really insecure.
Right.
Because you're going to fuck up something and I'm going to call you out for it.
Right.
And I'm going to be like, you don't have attention to detail. Or I'm going to, I'm going to see that you fucked up something and I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Right.
You're an idiot. Like, I will do that to you.
Lewis, is that how he is? Yeah.
aggressively.
Yeah.
And if you can't handle that, if you don't have thick skin, you're not gonna be able to handle that. But if you're smart enough, you'll know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm training you to be a killer because I only want to be surrounded by killers. And then you're gonna hear me talk about my vision and my dreams and my goals. Mm-hmm. Then you're gonna be like, holy crap, I go back home to my fucking girl yelling at me about the electric bill and I come and talk to Zane and we're talking about taking over the world. We're at a completely different spectrum.
Yeah.
And then you start to become more and more and more like me, and you start to have these big visions and dreams, mm-hmm. and you see more clearly. You're no longer suppressed by other people's views, opinions, and beliefs.
Yeah.
But now you can see what I have. And then on top of that, now you see my actions and what I do. Mm-hmm. You see the way I move. You see me when yesterday we're at dinner and he's like, dude, just like out of curiosity, how much is that bill? I was like, I don't know. I'm like, as I'm looking at it, it's like $500. He's like, oh, cool, dude. I'm like, yeah, but he's like, do you normally spend that? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I normally don't look at my bills when I pay for food. Mm-hmm. I go to restaurants where there's $4,000 or $5,000 I'm spending at one dinner table. I'm not ever looking at that bill. I'm not ever looking at what that says. I've been out to a nightclub before, spent $50,000 in a night. I'm not sitting there freaking out about that. Mm-hmm. I go on a plane sometime. There's a $100,000 charter fee, one way, 6 hours on a plane. These are things that people see and they're like, wait, that's how it works? I remember I lived in LA and I was wearing Yeezys and I was hiking. I remember mad people just walking because when you hike up in this hills, we're at Runyon Canyon, I'm going up, people coming this way and they're looking and they're like, bro, you crazy. And I'm like, why am I crazy? They're like, you're wearing fucking Yeezys on a mountain. I'm like, dog, you think I'm really thinking about the shoes that I'm wearing right now? Think I'm really thinking about that view when you go up the mountain? Yeah, but you really think that like that's my focus. So you have two sides of the world. You have people that think like that, and then you have another guy over there that's fucking spending $1 million a month doing whatever.
Right.
You know, I was in Italy last summer on a yacht. I'm on a $500 million mega yacht. I'm next to Leonardo DiCaprio and Jamie Foxx on this yacht. There's about 10 guys on this yacht and 40 girls. We're sitting there and I talk to this guy that's running the entire yacht and I'm like, dude, how much is this thing to charter? And he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, if I wanted to charter this, how much would it be? He's like, oh, we don't do that, but you know, this thing to charter would be at least 1.5 million a week. Right. I'm like, oh, okay, 1.5 million a week. I'm like, how much does this thing cost to operate every year? He's like, yeah, the owner pays about 70 to 80 million dollars a year just to operate this yacht. Now think about that. This is a guy's yacht who spends 70 to 80 million dollars to operate and maintain this thing. That means that this is most likely one of 17 other outlandish, lavish things that this guy has in his life. Forget about his mansions. Forget about probably his other yacht. Forget about the 2 helicopters that were on top of the yacht. Forget about his Airbus jet that's $75 million. Forget about everything. This is just some random billionaire. He was Leonardo DiCaprio's friend. I got invited through my friend who was there with Jamie Foxx.
Oh wow. Dang, you're pretty connected, man.
Yeah, but again, I'm not anything special. I just know a lot of people, and they see my vision, and they talk to me, and they're like, "Dude, I want to be like that. I want to be a part of that." Why? Because they go back home and they listen to the same old bullshit. Oh, Johnny, enough is enough. Oh, Johnny, you're spending too much money. Yeah. Oh, Johnny, we're not making enough money. And they come and hang around me, and they hear some of this shit, and they're like, "Dude, I want to be around greatness."
What is greatness to you, and what is your vision towards greatness?
never stopping.
Yeah.
I want to be able to go out there and have enough money to be able to control planet Earth in a positive way. I think there are so many people at the top that do not have good intentions. They're extremely greedy and they want to keep all the information, knowledge, and capital for themselves. So they want to control planet Earth like that. And I'm on a war against that. I believe God put me on planet Earth to be a good human and to utilize my capabilities. I believe God specifically selected me to help envision what my dream was with the world and be able to help people. So for me, when I look at that, I take it as a big responsibility. So the first thing was I grew up poor, grew up in a 500 square foot apartment. I have no connections. My parents had nothing. How am I going to go after that crazy fucking vision? It's impossible. Well, how do I do it? I need money. So I need to go and I need to learn and figure out how to become one of the richest people on planet Earth, not just so that I can have more dollars in my bank account, but so that I can now take that money and deploy it towards things that are going to benefit Earth and move humanity forward. Because the scariest thing to me is the downfall of humanity. Who knows what could happen? Who knows if, we keep doing all the wrong shit, we go in the wrong direction, eventually that leads to destruction of planet Earth. And I believe in people. I believe in humans enough to want to put my entire life's energy and attention on the progression of society.
Makes sense. I see you have a Richard Mille on right now. What kind of watch is that?
This is called an RM30. So this is just a Richard Mille. I was just talking about this on my last podcast. They make 1 million Rolexes every year. They make 60 to 70,000 Audemars Piguets and Patek Philippe watches. They make 4 to 5,000 Richard Milles every year. So this is the most exclusive watch that you can buy on the market.
How much is it?
This one I bought directly from a Richard Mille boutique. No. So this is a crazy story how I got this one, but before this I had a $300,000 one that retail was probably about the same price as this, but on the gray market it's 300 grand. So that's how I was buying my RMs. And I've had, every type of watch you can imagine, Pateks, APs, Rolexes, RMs, all that stuff. But this one specifically, I went and I was in Aspen. I was there and I was staying inside a hotel called the Little Nell that has a Patek store in there. And I'm talking to this Patek guy and it goes back to communication relationships. I'm telling him my vision. I'm telling him what I do. I'm telling him about my company and my life. And he gets sold on it. And he goes, I don't have a watch for you today. Here's all the watches I want to get you over the next 2 years. However, I think that the guy at RM, he's a good friend of mine, Jeffrey, he might have a watch for you. Why don't you go talk to him? I talk to him. He sadly doesn't have a watch for me. We talk, we build out a relationship, and over 3 months, he really falls in love with, I think, my vision and my dream and me being a client at RM and ends up giving me this RM, which, dude, people never get this number one as their first watch from RM, let alone ever getting a first watch from RM. So this is a very crazy pickup to have.
Why Richard Mille? Because
to me, it's the coolest watch. It's the most craziest looking thing. Like if you just take this thing and you look at it, it's just like, dude, you have these crazy movements on the back. You have this dial, and what RM calls itself is the race car on your wrist. You are wearing a race car in your wrist. When you think a race car and you look at this watch, you could identify with it. But if you get an AP or a Rolex and a Patek, which I love all those watches, they're not necessarily race cars. This is a race car watch, and to me, it's the most badass thing. What I love about RMs the most is when people see it, they look at me different.
That's the thing I want to ask you about. Like, how has that helped?
It builds
with,
relationships
networking?
And connections. I mean, this one is recent, so none from this one, I think.
Yeah.
Who knows, though? I mean, we just walked into this podcast, and they were like, oh, my God, you were in RM.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of used to it, but, having one of these watches, you can't finance it.
Right.
You can't finance it. That means you have to be willing to spend multi-six figures on a thing that you're just going to wear on your wrist. Right. What most Americans don't even save up in their entire lifetime, nor ever even their first house is worth. Yeah. You're just wearing it on your wrist like it's just another thing in your life.
Makes sense.
So people know that takes work. That's not easy. Yeah. And then they find out I'm 27 years old and they're like, dude, how is that possible?
Can you share with me a little bit about you? Because you talked a lot about your vision, how it excites a lot of people. Can you share with us a little bit about what your vision looks like?
Yeah, man. So for me, number one is my solar company. So I own a company called Better Earth Solar. And what we do is we go around the entire United States and different parts of the country, and we help people gain access to freedom over their power. For the first time ever, they're in control of their utility. What that means is when they walk into that home, the first thing that they do when they move into their home, what anyone does is they set up Wi-Fi and they set up their utilities. But before anything, it's that. If someone misses a payment for rent, they will always pay their electric bill. Why? Because their electric company will turn them off of their power. So that's usually the first bill. Now, what happens when you look at third world countries and you're exposed to problems around the world, you notice that in communist Venezuela or in Cuba, what happens? People turn off power.
Yeah.
And they turn off power again, like we were talking about, if they want you to think a different way. So for me, I knew that being in that industry and being a part of it was a way for me to actually go against the quote unquote big man. And then I heard a quote where Warren Buffett said the largest transfer of wealth in history is going to be in the deregulation of energy. And that blew my mind away, because when I heard that, I was like, holy crap, solar is what it is. The best form of deregulated energy is you being your own power plant, is your solar system bringing your electricity in, you using your own electricity, which comes from the sun, which no government or man-made thing could ever control. And if that sun doesn't come up every day, well, we all fucking die. So when I realized the essence of that utility and how it comes up every day and how the entire world isn't powered by this thing, I was like, my customer is every home and business on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Talk about a bigger vehicle. And when we go back to my mission of saving humanity and doing good for the world and actually being one of those leaders of planet Earth that is a positive force for nature and puts us forward, I need a big enough vehicle to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that selling, marketing services. I'm not going to be able to do that selling cars. Like, maybe I could get successful. Maybe I make a few billion, but I can't make trillions of dollars doing that. But a utility is something you can make trillions of dollars with. So when I saw that, I was like, dude, this vehicle might be the biggest vehicle in the world. And if I could be a part of it, and I could even have 1% of this vehicle, it puts me into being top 5 to 10 richest people in the world.
Nice. So looking back at your early life, and I've heard this opinion from so many different people. I think the last time I heard, I think it was Iman Ghazi that said, when you make $10,000 a month profit, that's when your life changes, but then your life doesn't really change that much after that, right? What do you say about that? And what was the amount of money that you started making monthly to where you're like, okay, like I can like shoulders back a little bit more?
Never. I've never been like that. Yes,
Really?
I agree with Iman in the sense of 6 figures is the first time you feel really good about yourself. But after that, it only gets harder and harder. Why? Because when you make $100,000, you're probably either still living with your parents, or maybe you're not, but maybe you're living in a cheap apartment. You're sharing it with 3 guys. You're each paying $800 or $900 every single month. So you're able to get by. After taxes, $100,000 a year. What is that? Or $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year. That might be $6,000 or $7,000 after taxes, depending on what state you live in. Now you're paying $1,000 to rent, and then now you're buying food, you're going out. Next thing you know, if you're a frugal guy, you might be saving $3,000 to $4,000 a month. If you're a non-frugal guy, you're going to be spending all your money and also probably be in credit card debt. So that's what happens there. But when you get ultra wealthy, you start to realize things get way more expensive and not in the same proportion of your wealth. What you start to realize that your flight on American Airlines that's $300 from California to Massachusetts on a private jet is $90,000. And you're like, holy crap, we're going from $300 to $90,000. Or you realize when you would go out to the bar, you were spending $100, but now when you go to a nightclub in Miami, you're spending $25,000. And you're like, holy crap, $100 to $25,000. And then, you were getting your car, you were paying $150 a month for your $20,000 Toyota, but now you're going to a Ferrari that's $400,000, but every time the light gets fucked up, you're paying 2 G's there. Every time a tire gets fucked up, you're paying $1,000 there. So life completely changes, but also it gets extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they crumble under that, or they think, I'm just going to settle down. I don't need more. For me, I never think that way. All these things we just described, these are material possessions, which for me are fun. They're toys. I don't care about them. They're just fun to have. I wear this watch because I can wear it. I drive my cars because I can drive it. It's not for anybody else. It's just I enjoy the product. If I have the money to do it, why would I be wearing a G-Shock? Why would I wear an RM that I think looks 1,000 times sexier? Why? To me, the real thinking that people should have is not on how can I save more money or how can I buy this thing for myself. They should be thinking about how can I go out there and build something that's so big. And that's what I think about. My biggest expense is not a watch, it's not a plane, it's not a car, it's my company. That's what I spend tens of millions of dollars on every month.
Yeah.
Month.
Yeah. So we're both religious, right? So the day that God takes your soul away and people are showing up to your funeral, right? What would you want?
This is, and dude, and this is, by the way, that statement you're about to make and say, and even just that's what plagues so many people in my life, I think, from being successful, is they think that money is bad. And you probably know this growing up, probably in an Islamic household as well. When people don't have a lot of money sometimes in those households, they think money's bad or it's greedy or evil. And, my mom always used to say, like, you can't take your money with you, when you die, or you can't take your money with you to heaven and blah, blah, blah. And I look at that and I'm like, dude, that's absolute bullshit. Why did God put you on planet Earth? He put you on here for a purpose. And every human being, I believe, should leave Earth better than the way that they found it. That is your duty to God for allowing you to wake up every day, for beating all of those sperm cells to actually come out to being a human number one, which is literally a harder chance than winning the lottery, being a millionaire, or being a billionaire, is just being born.
Right.
God put you through that and selected you. And now you're already thinking about, when I'm gone. No, dude, like, take every living, breathing moment to be your best version, so that the day you die could be today, could be tomorrow. You might be talking to me today, and today I get in a car accident and I'm dead. That'd be wild to you, right? But that could happen. I'm prepared for anything to happen in my life. I'm prepared for anyone to die in my life, and I'm prepared for myself to die.
How do you prepare for death?
You don't think about it. All you think about is living your life to your highest abilities, utilizing your full potential, and knowing that you might die one day and someone might die one day. In fact, not might, they will die, and you will die at some point. And when you die, there ain't no going back. It's not like breaking up with your girl where you're like, oh yeah, like, we should maybe get back together. No, when you die, you ain't negotiating with anyone to come back to life.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything. So why would I sit here crying and awing and missing when I know, number one, the person that died probably wouldn't want me to do that. Number two, I will change nothing. The best thing that I could potentially do is go out there and reach my full potential and be the best version of Zane.
Okay. What does Zane Jen want to be known as? If people are showing up to your funeral, what do you want them to say about?
The best force on planet Earth, the guy that was able to revolutionize the way that power worked, the guy that was able to destroy corruption that was coming into our country and into the rest of the world, and the guy that was able to open up minds to inspire more people to be successful, and the guy that was able to pass on the torch, which has led civilizations for the next thousands of years to come.
Wow. What was the turning point in your life where you just kind of switched gears and focused on your business 1,000%?
It was that college moment. It was when I was in college doing drugs every single day, and I made a decision to go all in. Since that day, I haven't looked back, and I'm not lazy. I just fucking work all day, and I love doing it, and I have no problem with it.
Wow. Okay, if you had one place that you had to live for the next 3 years, you had to live in this place, whether it's
only
a
way
state
I'd have
or
to live there
country.
is if I was under house arrest or state arrest.
You had to live in there for 3 years. What would it be? Country
Again,
or
the
state?
only reason is if someone was confining to me, so I'd probably be in prison, or a prison without bars, they call it, is the reason I would have to stay there. But if I would have to pick one place on planet Earth, it would be Miami, and that's where I live.
Makes sense. Favorite?
I've been everywhere in the world. I've been everywhere. Been every country you could imagine, every place you could imagine. I've seen every site. And there's something about the freedom of the United States, and then there's something about the international feeling of Miami. And when you combine that international exotic feeling with that freedom of the United States, I think you have the biggest heaven on planet Earth sitting there in Miami. I do believe in the future that will probably be Dubai as they continue to modernize a little bit more, as culture starts to kind of come there and there's more international parties that come to Dubai. I think Dubai is well on its way to surpass every other country. But again, to me, that only happens if the United States keeps slipping and keep going in the wrong direction. I think that could become Dubai, but I think today, currently, best place in the world, Miami, Florida.
If you had to pick 3 people to have dinner with, dead or alive, who would it be?
Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Warren Buffett.
Okay. All business related.
Correct, because it's not just business related, life related.
Life related, okay.
All 3 of those people have a much far greater purpose than just business.
Okay.
Elon Musk, look at him.
They're all alive right now, by the way.
Number one, they're all alive, so I can have dinner with them.
Yeah.
Number 2, Elon Musk, look at what he's creating. Look at what he's doing. You think that's about money? You really think he's thinking about money right now?
Well, he just had an interview with I don't know which news podcast it was, but they were talking about how, you're making all these tweets, aren't you scared about your investors, the ads? He's like, first of all, I want to say whatever I want to say. I don't care about the money. So he said it just like that. So, I mean.
Yeah, because that, dude, when you're at that level, you've achieved every level of financial status.
Yeah.
Financial status is not what you're going for.
Yeah.
So to me, it would be Elon for his kind of caring, you know, doesn't give a fuck mentality, and he truly wants to make humanity better.
Yeah.
It would be Jeff Bezos because he's truly built one of the greatest companies on planet Earth with the best systems, and I'd want to know how I could replicate that. And it'd be Warren Buffett because he's probably studied every industry in any company more than anyone on planet Earth and knows what the future is probably better than most.
Makes sense. For our audience out there, maybe they're in college, they're in the same situation as you were a few years back, and they're maybe smoking a lot of weed, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Maybe they feel lazy. What do you have to say to them?
Put that blunt down. Throw that fucking drink out.
Yeah.
Kick the fucking homie that's next to you or the girl that's next to you that's telling you to keep doing that shit. Push everyone aside and go all into being the best version of yourself. The next 10 years of your life are the most pivotal years of your life, and they will set you up to succeed for the rest of your life. Everyone will remember you based on these next 10 years. So put all that shit aside. Stop listening to the bullshit that people tell you that you're still young and you have time and it's okay to mess up. Remove all that negativity and garbage out of your life and go all in for the next 10 years, and you will be more happy than ever because you are going to have set up your legacy and you're going to put yourself ahead, literally so much far ahead than every single person behind you. And then number 2 would be go all into something that scares you and go all into something that makes you extremely uncomfortable. The reason I guide people who are lost into door to door is because, again, I think it's the most extreme place to put yourself in. And if you can learn how to sell anything door to door, you can literally do anything that you want.
Awesome. Zane, where can people find you on social media?
At Zane Jan on Instagram. You can type in Zane Jan on YouTube, and you can type in Zane Jan Official on TikTok, and then you could just type in my name on Google. Okay,
well, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast, man. I learned a lot, and hopefully people took a lot of wisdom from it.
Let's do it, man. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, man. And cut.
Good shit.
Awesome. I think that was an hour, right?
That was a perfect hour, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah,
yeah.
Hour and 30 seconds.
I
awesome.
love it, man.
I literally just counted in my head. I was like, okay, it's probably time to.
I love it. Good stuff.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, man.